Hello, hello. Welcome back to Sikich Live on this beautiful Thursday, at least in Chicago, Illinois. Well, it was beautiful a little bit before, but thanks again for being here. Today, we're moving our conversation on to construction ERP software. So if that's something that you are interested in, you are in the right place. But before I bring on our guest for today and dive into this topic, I do want to make sure that everyone knows, please don't be shy on Sikich Live. Feel free to enter into the comments, into the chat, whether on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, where we're going live today. Feel free to ask those questions that we can get them answered right now by the experts that we have. But I'm not going to bring them on just yet. If you haven't heard of Sikich before, we're an accounting, advisory, and technology digital consultancy helping to digitally transform the world that we all work in. There's been a lot of change in the past few years, and Sikich is here to help with that digital transformation that everyone's going through. Now, Sikich has many specialty areas like business and modern workplace applications, including ERP and CRM, managed services, IT infrastructure support, cybersecurity, and so much more. And as I said today, we're going to be focusing on the ERP, the enterprise resource planning side of our services today. Now, today's topic is the 4 points to consider when buying ERP construction software. So we're really honing in here on the construction industry, of course. And joining us today is Mr. Mike Lamo, coming from Phoenix, Arizona. Am I correct in that? You haven't moved.
That's right. I'm in beautiful Phoenix.
There you go. And as well, Tim Tucker, director of our D365 BC practice here, coming from Los Angeles, Glendale?
That's right. The Los Angeles area, greater Los Angeles area. Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you both for joining as our experts here on our construction ERP software. Let's just jump right into it. First question. When you're selecting an ERP solution, what would you say are the must-have features or functionality?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess, Tim, when we're thinking about it, we're thinking about the 3 or 4 areas that people in construction really care about. You know, what are the tools used to estimate the bids in the first place and make sure the profitability is there, and send stuff out for bids and get that stuff in and build your project and that thing. And what are the field managers and people working on the field to get materials on site? What's the time entry part? And then ultimately, who's sitting in the office in accounting, and what reports do they have? WIP reports, analysis reports, profitability reports, and all that. What do you see, Tim, on that? Are people doing different things, different solutions for that, or what are you seeing?
Well, a lot of people are doing different disjointed solutions for that. And so when you're thinking about, what are the things you consider, you touched on a lot of the functionalities, job cost, managing contracts, subcontracts, understanding WIP calculations, percentage of completion, accounting, all that stuff, right? But a lot of people are doing disjointed systems, and the challenge there is that the information is all disjointed. So you can't, for example, go into the general ledger and drill backwards to see where those transactions came from, in a WIP calculation on the job, or you can't go into the job cost system and do some transactions and see what the effect that's going to have on your financials. So, yes, all the core functionalities that you mentioned are important, but the thing that's really important is that they're all connected together in a seamless manner, so that you get the full picture of your financials, how your jobs are running, and the health of your company.
Yeah. So the construction industry is starting its boom again, right? We're seeing buildings come up, and we're seeing things moving and shaking within that industry. So what are the good indicators that the software that you're investing in will be able to, one, really grow with you, right? Especially as more and more projects are added and more things are happening, and to be around for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, maybe I'll take Well,
Yeah, go
maybe I'll
ahead.
take that one first. So
Yeah.
a couple of things come to mind. One, the last question you asked, will they be around?
Yeah.
Stick with the big players in the market if you can, if they have the solutions for you. As you mentioned, I work in a Microsoft Business Central team here at Sikich, and that product has been around, and the predecessor for it for a very long time, being a Microsoft solution. But also, does the application have the ability to grow in functionality? So, example is maybe today you focus on HVAC for commercial jobs, and you're only doing installation. Well, what if one day you want to expand into doing servicing those and doing service contracts? Does your ERP that you're selecting have the ability to implement field service? So that kind of flexibility to have the different modules, different functionalities built into it, that can grow as you do and as your business changes. Mike, you had something you wanted to add there too.
Yeah, I think it's two parts. One is we all know that the profit margins can be a little tricky in this industry. So as the companies grow, they're trying to take on more projects, but not add the number of personnel in the headquarters or construction officer. They're not trying to add headcount if they can, which means you're either going to force guys to work longer hours, or you've got a software that lets them do that stuff that's agile. So that's part of that, is that they're trying to take their current resources and add projects to that, and just hire labor as needed per job, but keep the core fixed costs the same. And the other thing, you touched on a great point, Tim, is what's the functionality? We were to get a lot of subs and GCs that were doing their thing, and now we're getting these hybrid guys, the modular, the prefab guys that are sort of a combination of manufacturing up front and construction in the end. So yeah, they understand the construction might have software for that, but can they add easily that other functionality for the modular side of the business, the prefab side? Are they doing it just in Excel?
Right. So how can investing in modern construction management software save you money long term, right? That's the goal here, especially like you just said, Mike, those very close profit margins, right, are such a concern for the construction industry. How can software help increase those margins?
Yeah, Tim, you might as well take this one, because I know we've been having these discussions a lot lately.
Yeah, there's two real obvious ones. Well, one real obvious one, and maybe one that's not quite as obvious. One is most modern ERP applications are cloud-based, and so that means you don't need all the infrastructure and overhead to go along with it. You don't need all the servers. You don't need an army of IT people to manage that infrastructure. You may need IT people for other things, but not for the ERP system. So that's an immediate savings right there. The other one that may be less obvious is, and Mike was hinting at this, as you get busier and busier, as you grow, you have more and more activities for the back office people. So your purchasing folks are out bidding jobs and doing the contracting. There's two ways to solve that problem. You can solve it by brute force, by adding more people, or you can add systems and have the right systems to make your life easier. And so by having the right technology systems, it will really allow you to do the strategic hiring that adds value to the business, or where you need the labor on the job site in the field, and just less throwing bodies at the problem. The other thing I would add to that is related specifically to really effective job cost management on the projects, making sure you understand all of the costs as you're going in real time, how things are changing, when you need to issue change orders, having those change orders entered into the system, and tracking those costs really helps you manage your thin profit margins on the job site as well.
Yeah, and I was also thinking that some of the mechanics of how people work, like you mentioned, the back office paperwork and walking paper around from person to person. What happens when they're spread out? Going paperless or document management workflow. In the absence of those systems and disparate systems that aren't really integrated or different things, you've got to throw bodies at it to do the manual processes to connect it. They're either hand entering stuff in another system, or they're walking something around. So as they get, you can handle that when you're smaller and people know each other and they're used to that system. As you start to grow, it starts bursting at the seams, and those pressure points, that can be a limiting factor, and it will show up either on the job site or at your end customers, he's not happy with what's happening. He can't get the information he needs. There's delays because you just can't keep up with it.
Absolutely. So, what should construction companies consider when choosing a solutions partner?
Yeah, Tim touched on something. One is the application. Like, it's a great comment he made, is that there's a lot of players in this space of construction software. Some of them are better at the, I want to say, the operations end, the way bids are done and managing stuff and everything from lien waivers and all that stuff that you have to do on the job AI billings and everything that you get into. And some are better on the back end with more of the accounting and that kind of a thing. So I think the first thing is a partner that is familiar with some of those systems, the larger systems that have been around for a while. Or like Tim said, Business Central that we're using, we've got a Microsoft ERP solution based on something that's been around for 20 years. So having familiarity with the software that's been around a while and that has a lot of market presence, but then obviously being familiar with the industry, knowing that retention means something besides holding water.
Yeah, so familiarity with the industry is the obvious answer, right?
Yeah.
I would add to that a partner that has enough experience and is large enough to also have seen what other industries do. The construction industry is well known for not making a significant investment in technology. However, if you look at the manufacturing sector, Mike was talking about prefab earlier. Manufacturing has traditionally invested a lot of money in technology solutions. So if you're working with a partner that really understands the construction industry, but also understands some other key industries where technology has been a major player, they can bring some of those disciplines and concepts and knowledge of how other industries are really leveraging technology to really move the needle on their business. And they can bring that to your business as well and help you understand what of that makes sense to implement or at least consider. Because they've seen some different things before that maybe somebody that's only been in the construction industry, maybe they've never seen that. So something to think about.
Yeah, and not only that, but you bring up a good point, is that it's sometimes not just the construction software. What else are people using? Outlook for email, Excel, Word, different applications. So there's some partners know the construction software, but do they know the integration points and how these all work? We have one construction industry customer who we're managing their Salesforce project. We're doing managed services for, endpoint protection and cybersecurity, as well as supporting the ERP and the construction applications as well. So, yeah, you obviously want to start with industry knowledge, but if you, like Tim said, you don't have an IT staff because you can go cloud-based, or you never had one, maybe that's another thing to look at, is can you have a single vendor that can hit a lot of these points rather than just go to 3 different guys when you need it.
Yeah. And hey, I think we should be blunt here as well. At Sikich, we've had over 500 construction clients, and we get to understand the industry really, really in depth. And Tim, your expertise has led to a solution that we call here at Sikich Head Start for Construction. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about what that is, with construction companies having so much, there's such a time commitment to put into a new construction software and implementing and changing the system. Just like you said, the construction industry is a little bit maybe behind on implementing those types of things. So it might be a disruptor for them. What is Head Start and how can that help them?
So Head Start is a name that Head Start for Construction is a name that we put together where we've pre-identified the solution stack based off of the Microsoft Business Central ERP system, where we know 80% of the functionality that most construction companies need, and so we take a lot of the guesswork out of trying to find the right solutions. We could focus more on what are the business process reengineering things that might need to be handled implementing the ERP, rather than which are the right pieces of software. So if, for example, if you come to us and say, using the example I did earlier, hey, I'm an HVAC company and I want to do both, manage my job cost, job site financials, but I'm also thinking about service. Well, we have a field service solution that's part of the ERP stack that we can bring right to the table and guide you on best practices for putting it in. So it's really, that knowledge, that predefined solution stack that we've got, that'll save time.
Trying to get more construction companies to come to the digital side, right? The cloud side,
Right.
I guess you would say.
Come to the cloud side, and the other part about that is that since Sikich is a half technology firm, kind of half accounting firm,
Right.
we have a huge amount of people and people on our accounting side that deal with construction clients because the way you cost things, the tax implications, all the things that come into play about payroll and the prevailing wage and all the different stuff. It's really nice for us on the technology side to say, hey, that's an interesting point, that we can go to somebody on the other side and vice versa. They'll be doing CPA work for a construction company for years, and then they'll say, hey, what software should we use? And so it's really nice to have that sort of integration between the two areas at Sikich, Mike, and we do use each other quite a bit for that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, excellent. Thank you for being here today. That's all the questions that I have for you. I really appreciate it. Any last words to leave us with?
No, I guess just like you said, is if you're looking for a starting place, what Tim and I usually been doing is just trying to understand what you're using now, what you like, what you don't like, where you're headed to as a business. And from that, we can tell you real quickly if we've got a fit for you or not, and it doesn't have to waste any time. If it's a good fit, we can tell you real quickly, even give you kind of a rough idea of what something like that might cost. And that's really helpful because you don't have a lot of time to waste. And then if it does look like something that you want to get into, we usually work on tailored demos that sort of match your business model. And then you can decide if it's a good fit or not. But usually it's a good point just to say, what are you running into? Do we have a solution or not?
Yeah. I know Mike or Tim would be happy to receive any messages on LinkedIn. Also, feel free to visit us at sikich.com to learn more. Email us at info@sikich.com. You can put Sikich Live in the subject line. Lots of different ways to contact us. If you need help, we're here to help. And like Mike said, we're going to find out if we're a good fit. And if we're not, we'll let you know immediately. So thanks everybody for being here today. Thank you to Tim and Mike for being our guests. We will see everybody next week. Thanks.